I'd like to invite two incredible founders up to the stage. First, Gabby Steele, CEO of Preql. Second, Harry Anthony, CEO of Inscope. So come on up. So, if we go back to our opening remarks around the CFO audit handshake, we view this as a community event at Trullion. There's a lot of different players, not just the CFO, the audit leader. This is kind of, we've done this a couple of times, and this is like the fashion show, the fashion runway, where we get to see a lot of the cool cutting edge technology that some amazing founders have put together. And if you go back 2 years, a couple of the founders that we worked with had gone on to raise big rounds and really expanded the company. So we're hoping there's some good luck at this event. I think what's interesting to me about Gabby and Mary and a lot of this next generation of CFO and audit technology founders is that you guys have lived and breathed a lot of these problems that we're talking about. So maybe I'll start with Mary. Maybe give us your story and your journey to founding Inscope.
Thank you, Isaac. Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending time with us and learning more about Inscope and Preql and Trullion. Quick story. I am one of the founders of Inscope. I'm also the CEO of Inscope. I spent about 13 years between audit and corporate accounting. I was most recently corporate controller at a company called Miro. I was assistant controller at a company called Flexport and spent some time at Yelp as a public company as well. My co-founder Kelsey and I just spent a lot of time in financial statements, drafting them, reviewing them, as usually this is like the part of the year where I'm almost ready to quit my job. The rest of the year, great job, corporate controller, amazing job. I see Sloan in the audience. He's one of our customers, and he was just telling me earlier today, if he has to format one table into a Word document, he's just throwing this thing away. And so we didn't want our users to spend time doing these, low value work.
Fantastic. And you're based in?
San Francisco.
San Francisco, nice. And we're going to see a little bit of a demo and a pitch from Mary Gabby a second. Gabby, tell us a little bit about your background.
First of all, it's very exciting to be here in this finance room because my background, I studied painting and drawing in undergrad. And usually I speak to a technical audience because I ended up as a data engineer. And for the past 10, 15 years, I've been working in the space of modeling data for non-technical users. I started doing that actually in the storytelling world, the data visualization. I was at the Washington Post during the 2016 election. And then I ended up at WeWork. I had a nice conversation recently catching up with Artie and some of the friends from that period on the data engineering team. And my co-founder and I, she was employee 50 very early there and did a lot of work with the executive group, sending everybody, there's a famous text message that went out to the executive team every night, how many desks that were sold. And the bulk of our careers since then have been around how do you deliver this critical insight information to teams that may or may not know how to write SQL or code in the language of the database. We founded Preql just over 2.5 years ago to support business users on their journey to get to those insights by making modeling something that was more no code. And about 18 months ago, the Major League Baseball Network group came to our website as an inbound lead, the FP&A team, needing this product. So since then, I have become a finance data expert. And today, Preql is very focused on agentic data cleaning for the office of the CFO. And we heard from so many folks today, which was very refreshing, how important data is and how important it is to get that clean data to those business users. I will share more about how our product works. Specifically, we focus today on structured data sources.
Fantastic. So thanks, Gabby. We're going to actually hear from Gabby and Mary. But first, a little bit of what we call a vertical AI framework. Remember, we talked at the beginning about vertical AI. And if you weren't here, what we share is that when we think about horizontal AI LLMs, which is OpenAI and Gemini, they're fantastic to cut across a wide range of use cases, but they don't go deep into any one. What Trullion does and what a lot of these companies do is they go deep into the accounting era. So that's the rise of vertical AI. And just to present a little bit of a framework, when you think about vertical AI, and even going back to some already in Dante's comments, it starts with all of that unstructured data. It can be in systems, it could be in ERPs, or it can be in documents. Historically, it was all the ERP and the general ledger, but today it's all over the place. 80% of the new financial data is outside of the ERP. 80% is unstructured outside of the ERP. New regulations, GAAP, IFRS, SOX, new business models, SaaS, crypto, what have you. So it's outside of the ledger, okay? So the framework is you still need to get that data clean, which Gabby will talk about. Where Trullion plays is a lot in this workflow area, and then you really got to get it to someone like Mary at Inscope to do your reporting. We all play in various areas of this space, but this is a sense of where vertical AI goes. So what we'll do is we'll step down for a second, and Gabby will get us started with a little bit about Preql, starting with that early data cleanup layer. Go.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, center, just like to remember what we're looking at. But Preql's really the foundation layer, right? So we've been in this data engineering space for a long time, and I'm going to start by referencing Trullion and this impact that they, as Isaac demonstrates, in order to get into any kind of complex, clean data system, you need to start with this foundation layer. So Preql is a data pipeline, meaning we connect to all of your systems. And even though finance is really ready for AI, they don't necessarily have the resources possible to bring all that data in themselves. And they're often reliant. You've got lots of consulting firms that are great with the technology side of things, but they don't always have an in-house data team or structure to do that work. And as Isaac is sharing, there's 80% coming from outside of your core systems. So even if you have the cleanest possible ERP, which no one does, and then you have many of those, you're still funneling a lot of garbage. So the problem that we are solving is from all of your raw data sources, how you get to a place where the output layer, whether that's a Trullion or an Inscope or a different tool altogether. In my demo, I'll show a little bit about what the amazing world of Claude would be if you could actually talk to your data there. How do we get to that clean place? Here's how Preql comes in. So what we do is we bring data from all of those sources into a series of agents. Casey mentioned this as well. It's kind of agents on agents with a human in the loop. I think one of the things that's really exciting about accounting, and when we think about 2030, this is a group where people are excited to get rid of tasks that they never liked doing. And kids coming out of Ivy League schools don't want to be given the tasks of, the typical accountant. As we know, I did go through that journey. But how do we help people push data in? So what our solution does is we take this very non-deterministic process and put AI that is deterministic with all of the context that comes from your expert accounting teams into the workflow. So by the time the data gets into, it could be a chatbot, it could be an LLM, or it could be an FP&A tool like Pigment, or it could be a tool like Trullion. How do you get to that place faster? So I'm going to ask you all to share a little bit. I don't know if this is what folks' Claude looks like today, but there's a dream that if accounting teams could go in and talk to their general ledgers, everything would be clean, reliable, and possible. I haven't met a customer yet today, and we work with a lot of enterprises that has anything that looks like this before implementing Preql. So this is the dream state, but if you go into our platform, you can ask questions like, how is revenue defined? And as a business user on the finance team, be given all of the information you need, the governance. Am I somebody that has ownership over this metric? Can I ask these questions? And what we do on the technical side is we maintain a semantic model. So all of the lineage and the mapping that's required to get you that clean data that our agents are doing behind the scenes, you can actually look through and interact with. And everything is structured in a completely no-code way. People like to see it in a chatbot, but this could be visible anywhere. And you can also make changes and actually talk to those definitions if you have the governance and permission to do so. we'll put in a question here. I think it's about revenue or a specific metric. Yeah. Remove management fees, for example. And that definition, if you have permission to do so, will update in real time. This was never possible for a team on the finance side. And what we found is, as data people, and you can see all of the lineage and where all those metrics are coming from, finance has become our partners. And I think that speaks to a lot of what we've seen earlier today. I think one of the opening questions around, is the CFO going to be the chief AI officer for the future? We're banking on it. So these are some of the examples of folks we work with. I wanted to know pretty to marry, but thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Or good day. Just in these founder panels, we'd like to offer one question for the audience to our CEO co-founders. Give you like 5 seconds to think. And then is there anyone that has a question for Gabby, maybe about the Preql technology who you're selling to, who you're working with? Anyone? Artie.
Do you envision a future where companies are doing either their own data audits, or there's a regulatory regime where people are looking for data audits because, financial statement audits are based on the data that they are derived from, and the data is often a mess or a hornet's nest that needs to be cleaned up. And I understand when I look at what you built, which is amazing, why companies are sort of inbound coming to you. So just interested how you think the regulatory landscape could evolve with people looking for more, making sure that companies have clean data.
Yeah, so my mission from day one as a data engineer, and having come from maybe a non-technical background, has always been to empower business teams. It's been a blessing to land on finance because that's how you can tie everything back to ROI, and there's such a critical need there. But that future, the resounding answer is yes, and we're driving towards that. And when we think about 2030, as is one of the themes of today, how can Preql better support organizations at every scale in their technology journeys, tech companies like ZoomInfo or banks like Citi, who maybe don't have any underlying structures? How can we get them there faster? And we want to be the pipes to getting to that final layer. We're not interested, which is why partnership with all of these tools is so meaningful, in replacing every kind of UI reporting layer. It's how do we empower every individual in an organization to own their own audit process, because it's wild how hard it is. And it's been shocking to us as data engineers to just put up with these errors. They're so critical. And as you move up scales, these IPO, I work with a lot of companies, you could see some of the logos. It matters what Gross Corporation puts out there. They're not public, but still, Coca-Cola, etc.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Gabby. Boy. But it is interesting that Dante and Artie talked about the different type of majors that people are having, dual major in accounting and data. I didn't expect painting and data engineer, but you've got a beautiful brand, I must say. Beautiful color scheme. So thank you, Gabby. Now, continuing on with this vertical AI thing. Look, when we talk about vertical AI, what Gabby is showing you is that even if you use Claude on the data, if the data isn't transformed in a proper format specific to finance and accounting users, it's not usable. That's what we call the black box. That's what horizontal LLMs sit on top of. And so there's still a vertical specific data cleansing. It's in Gabby's tool, it's in ETL tools that's critical in this industry. A lot of it's going to be embedded into vertical AI solutions or partnering with folks like Gabby. Next, I'm going to go up to the workflow layer, talk about Trullion. So as we think about the workflow layer, we really look at workflows as actions, as a series of actions, and ultimately a toolkit that accountants and auditors can use over and over again to bring the data from distant sources up into the reporting layer. And as we do more actions on the platform, we move towards agents. Our agents of tomorrow in 2030 can do the actions we were doing yesterday. And then we as professionals can advance into the strategic areas. So the first demo is on financial statement review. This is Trullion's financial statement review module. Remember, historically, the CFO is submitting their financial statement through a series of checks to the auditor. The auditor is preparing, doing things like mathematical accuracy and taking a time. Well, with AI and agents, a lot of times, this is Netflix already talked about, the media industry. This is a Netflix 10K. Trullion can do all types of accuracy, consistency, and version comparison checks. Traditionally done people and paper, now done within the technology. So if you're a CFO, you could submit your financial statement. The auditor could actually do the review in Trullion and present it back to the CFO and show you where all of the accuracy checks were done, quickly find any errors, tick marks, incorrections that needs to be done. Again, this is all in a unified way where the CFO and auditor could potentially share on a single platform. This is internal consistency. An auditor can really help find those inconsistencies. And once you start doing these in an automated fashion, you can move up to the value of how does your financial statement look against your peers, right? What areas are risk areas going deeper than the audit? This is truly our agent. Then you get into the agentic framework. This is a disclosure checklist. So auditors go through 40, 50, 100 checks on a financial statement. Now, with Truly, an agent, you can run these 50 questions that auditors need to go through historically. It doesn't mean it'll get all of them. But one important thing is this is the new audit trail. This is called intent, audit logic, explaining what the agent is doing, the approach it's taking. So taking in the methodology and documenting for the CFO or the auditor what the exact approach is from the agent. Ultimately, the agent will think and share its methodology, but these disclosure checks are significant and they take a lot of time. What's cool about the Preql AI software is you can bring this into almost like a work paper, a workbench that you as an accountant can use. And what's nice is you have the agent going through your disclosure checklist and sharing yes, no, risk factors. What did we find? What did we not find? This is a live use case from this morning. We'll pre-report it. And then with Preql AI, you can go back to source data, right? So if you're well integrated with the documents like the financial statement or the data source, you can take your disclosure checklist and click through those items and go back to the original source. We believe a lot in source data at Trullion. It's kind of like the last mile of confidence and trust in an audit. So we make sure this is something that Claude and OpenAI can't do. We're going deep into the source data, compliant with things like PCAOB and other methodologies in one vertical place. So that's financial statements. Any questions there? I got one more. Good? Okay. So the next one is a little bit more out there. You got to be an auditor, I think, to appreciate it. We have Amanda here who pre-recorded this earlier, so I'll share it. But the idea is like this. Going back to the internal audit and external panel, there's a lot of good methodology in audit that's done in sampling, but if you could deploy it at scale, could have significant top line, bottom line impact on the business. One of those is testing, actual testing, substantial details, control testing. So historically, it's been done with sampling. This is Amanda in the top right. Historically, it's been done with sampling. If you can think of your experience, you've got one screen, which is a document, and one screen, which is an Excel. You're taking an Excel from data from a ledger or from an external system. This is an Excel file. This is a revenue work paper with the sample collected from Excel or the ledger, and then the attributes that you need to collect or the evidence that you need to match. This is all done in paper and spreadsheet, but with that data and workflow layer, you normalize all the different data sources, whether it's Excel or systems or documents. Amanda is bringing this Excel into Trullion, bringing every data format into the cloud, and the system and the agents are actually populating that sample into the system. So bringing the Excel into a cloud native format. Now, the next thing you do as an auditor is you start to look at all these documents, right? And start to match against that original sample for evidence. What the agent can do, I'll see if I'm talking at Amanda's space here, but what the agent can do is start to create that test. That's Chris Valley who popped in. He's also here today. Shout out to Amanda and Chris. But this is the auditor going into a document, like a folder, and just saying, hey, grab this data and pull it in. Here's all the documents. I want the agent to take the sample and actually create the tests. Actually create the tests that I need to run this audit. So the agent is actually doing the work. We go here for a second. The agent is taking the samples, reading through these documents. When I say documents, this stuff historically is taken. It could take a few minutes. It could take a few hours to go through these documents. But now you've got your sample in Excel. The agent has auto-generated the columns, has auto-generated what you need to present. And now it's starting to go into the depths of all the documents to try to find matches against the original source data. All this is being done in an agentic framework, but the human reviewing it. We at Trullion, we use audit things we're comfortable with as auditors in terms of the user experience. So this should look and feel like something we've always done as an auditor, but leveraging these agents to do a lot of that historical thing. So now what we would expect the agent to do is take that sample, look through all the documents, and start to populate in these columns and attributes that match against the sample. Okay, so let's see what it does. How am I doing, Amanda? Good. Amanda's our solution consultant at Trullion, Chris Vallon, one of our audit go-to-market leaders. And so what you're seeing now is we're back in the cloud. We've taken Excel and we've taken documents and we've normalized it in a single workflow, a toolkit. And because we always go back to audit methodology and comfort and making sure we're within PCOB and FASB regulatory frameworks, we allow the auditor to look at these green flags. Sometimes they're orange, which is maybe a fuzzy match. Sometimes it's blank, which shows you need to collect more samples, but you can click on the green flags and it takes you to that source data. So in vertical AI, no matter how good the workflow or the toolkit is, to keep up with the standard that we hold in the audit and CFO handshake, need to go back to the source data as we always did. So with that, I'll pause. Before we get to Mary, any questions? Good, Trey, yes.
How do regulatory bodies feel about using these agents?
Well, we have a couple here. I won't put them on the spot. I think in terms of regulators, let's take the PCOB, for example. I think the PCOB, as Dante said earlier, is not inhibiting or stopping any of this AI innovation. If you think about how we measure audit accuracy today, it's in deficiencies, right? Come in after the year and sample to sample, right? That's what's happening. You're sampling the sample of the audits. But in theory, if the audit moves to technology, cloud-based technology that can toggle between Excel and documents, you have an entire trove of an audit trove from the data that was presented, the methodology that was used, the source documents that were used, the disclosure methodology that was used, all the way to the output. So I think regulators from a PCOB perspective are very positive. I think the question is, how much are we going to look at? Because that's going to open up new frameworks and a lot more to audit. So far, so good. Yeah, good. Okay, one more for Casey. And then you get two, Mary, if you get there, yeah.
Do you expect the UI to change over the next 5 years, moving away from more of the Excel-based UI to just a system infused even without so?
Yeah, good question. So Casey's asking, does the UX change in 5 years? So let's talk about 2030, and I'll actually use a precedent in adoption. Cloud, the move from on-prem to cloud. So in the ERP world, still only about 50% of major corporations have moved from on-prem to cloud, okay? Now, there are massive, massive industries out there, software system implementers, about being able to keep on-prem and cloud technology in one place, right? And data warehouses, right? So what I mean is when you see these technological revolutions like AI, you have to have 1 foot in how we've been doing things and 1 foot in the future. So the UI is going to be cloud-based. That's where we are. But it's not, you're going to be doing less in Excel. However, the Excel is going to be integrated in the user experience so you could take advantage of that data without having a spreadsheet that breaks. You can bring in documents without reading them historically as you've done, and it's all presented in a cloud user experience in the next 5 years. Okay? Thanks for that question, Casey. Thank you everyone for your time. I'm going to call up next, Barry Anthony.
At Inscope, we started with the belief that financial reporting was broken. The way we were doing it was broken. There was way too much time spent by our financial reporting professionals formatting tables into Word documents, ticking and tying, looking for inconsistencies between parts of the document, mathematical accuracy, going back and forth with the auditors on, there's this one rounding error that you get a document back and now you have to fix that and bring it back. All of that work, we realized, takes up to 60% of the financial reporting professionals' time. 60%. Formatting takes up 20%. So we... does anyone remember the Lyft earnings call from February 2024, where I think the CFO accidentally guided to EBITDA growth as 500 basis points when it should have been 50 basis points? That could have been a real, just a typo. The kind of mistake that happens at all of our companies' finance teams constantly. It happens all the time because it's not because we're careless. It's because the process is broken and fragmented. And so we wanted to make sure that we could address that risk that even public companies with a whole team of accountants and auditors had to face. That is my co-founder, Kelsey. And Kelsey and I worked together for a very long time on financial statements, and this was the problem that chose us. You can see some of our customers here at the bottom. We work with companies like Intercom, Quizlet, Chronosphere, Celico. We also work with accounting firms like Connor Group, Cross Country Consulting, and Comdasnet. Let's go into the next slide. This was the problem that really got us jumping into Inscope. As it stands today, we automate approximately 60% of the work involved in financial statement preparation and review. And the way we do that is using LLMs to automatically roll forward financial statements from one period to another. It is not a simple control line and replace the year or quarter. Anyone who's done financial statements, prepared financial statement knows roll forward. You need to roll forward. You need to move the numbers with the days. With Inscope, it's a one-click button action, pulls forward the document into the next period, saving 6, 8, 10 hours of work in just that process. We do auto formatting. This is not AI, but it really formats your documents well, and a feature that's truly enjoyed by most of our users. Linking and syncing keeps everything linked to the source of truth, which today is Excel. We're not yet ready to move away from Excel. And the assistants and agents that, in many cases, similar to what you saw on the Trullion site, this would be on the financial preparation site. It looks like we may have put the same designer because a lot of our designs are similar. We also flag missing disclosures in the process as well. Let's go. So let's go back. There's a scheme where there's in-stored application. Yes.
I guess while we're getting the demo set up, it's interesting that we both talked about financial statements. To give you guys a sense, we view financial statements once they're constructed in the audit workflow. So look, if everyone had Inscope in the world, I think we'd be in that shared layer that we talked about earlier. Inscope does a great job, if it's fair to say, of constructing the financial statements. We have done a great job, I think, of deconstructing the financial statements. And so kind of going back to one foot in each side, there's a lot of the Silicon Valley, New York software scene that's working with SaaS companies and thinking about the next way to construct financial statements. But the rest of the world is operating in PDFs, right? There's a whole world of regional audit firms and accounting firms that are just getting PDF from small, medium-sized businesses. So we do a great job there. Hopefully in the future, add a little bit of Inscope and a little bit of Trullion into the handshake.
And so just to argue that, in 2030, accounting 2030, my expectation is that all financial statements are prepared, reviewed, and audited by AI agents and filed with the SEC by AI agents with human in the loop for judgment.
And last thing while we're waiting, any questions for Mary about the journey or the product of Inscope? These guys are getting a lot of great traction in the market right now. Really excited to see their growth. Anything out there? Doing good? Okay, Casey.
How do you foresee, you mentioned filed with the SEC, so how do we foresee that happening in your 2030 innovations? Because there's only like a select few companies that can actually file the financial statements with Korea.
Workiva does a really good job. We see that agents completing the tagging process, the XDR tagging, as well as the authorization process. And we're working on agents that complete the formatting and authorization for you. And so it's just the last mile that way. It's a click of a button. I'm pretty sure the agent, we can click a button.
Okay, amazing. I think we got a demo. How we doing?
Right. Can we like top?
Yeah.
So ready? Yeah, I'll just study at it. Is it sir? You have
So Mary, is it fair to say that you guys are an upstart of where Workiva is playing right now?
That's accurate. We're fans of Workiva too. It's a good company, it's a good product.
you need the demo or days?
Start a demo? Yeah.
Just switch the
So I'm just going to take that quick minute to show you auto formatting and how Inscope does auto formatting. I'm going to need two hats. So here's a table that has not been really formatted correctly. You can see one column is extra wide, one column is extra narrow. I'd spent too much time making sure the columns are the exact same width. We do not want our users to do any of that work. So I'm going to select this table. All I do is using Scope itself to create the links, to copy the table contents, come back into the document. This is the document where I want to paste the table. I just going to go down to the Pahuku document to paste the table. This is a standard set of financial payments where I want to do that. Yeah. All I do is just paste it with a Control P. Paste it. What that does is paste that table with all of the formatting requirements apply core IXS. So this is the set of FAC format that we use. So if you saw in the Excel file, the headers are not as bold. Column width was all cut out, mess out, and it did not have the raising stripes or dollar signs or quarters in width. All of those have been up high for you as part of the process. So this is really about 20% of the time in financial statement preparation that we put from all. You can always see where this information came from. In this case, you can see that it's coming from the workbook, tab name, cell ranges, who synced it when and not where. Extremely important for our users to keep track of the audit trail. We're going into some of Inscope's AI functionality here. There we go. This is where I think Trullion and Inscope may have used very similar design framework. Let me show you. So here's an example where the Inscope AI assistant went through the document while the team is preparing it, identified that 5 potential mistakes in the document that require their attention. So in the first case, the total current assets for 2023 shows 101 core 62. My AI assistant has recalculated it to be 108 805. I can even pull up a little calculator here that shows me how my AI assistant recalculated it. Usually what happens is someone made a formula error, inserted a row in Excel, update the formula, hard-coded a number. And we find that more and more of our users just don't get as many auditor comments back when they're using Inscope. Just like having a hard time seeing this. The other AI assistant that we have in the product is the inconsistency check. Similar to what Isaac had shown, but this is, again, the user can see this while they're drafting the financial statements. I'm showing depreciation and amortization in one part of the financial statements is 5023. in another part of the financial statement, which is in the paragraph, in the narrative reporting, I'm showing 1,292. Again, the user does not have to train or implement or hard code any rules. These have been automatically built into the process. So as they're capturing their financial statements, they can catch these errors and avoid these back and forth. I have one more AI assistant that I want to show. We have the ability to review your financial statements and identify if your financial statements are incomplete. And so similar to disclosure checklists, but these are actionable because they immediately give you information on how to update your financial statements. So it looks like I'm missing a few policies, a business combination disclosure, and the schedule of goodwill. So what the AI assistant provides to the user is the reason why it's showing you this update and how to update this or add this disclosure into the document. I'm able to use my AI assistant to go ahead and draft suggested disclosure. In this case, it's a template that it's forming based on information it knows from your financial statements, but also using FASB and SEC guidance. I know we're going to be out of time, so let's stop.
You're good. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Any questions? I have questions? Thank you. Okay, so we'll wrap it up here. Okay, I just think it's really fascinating. That was an interesting one to end on because to think about what you just saw, Mary's got a tool that's constructing and preparing the financial statements, supporting CFOs and controllers, using a lot of audit methodologies to prepare internal consistency, mathematical accuracy. And it's also interesting because we're doing something similar, deconstructing the financial statements, supporting auditors. So in theory, there's a lot of financial statements that are coming to PDF with accuracy errors and consistency errors, right? And Mary and I are looking at each other. We're not worried over the next 5 years. There's a lot of CFOs that are going to need these superpowers, and there's going to be a lot of audit firms that need the superpowers of the existing world. So that's a little bit of what 2030 could look like. You saw both sides of the CFO and auditor. Just to wrap things up, I first want to thank everyone for being here. A lot of you have come to multiple of our events, and we appreciate your ongoing support. And I want to thank our panelists, Artie, Dante, Mark, Casey, Ryan, and Trey, and of course, Mary and Gabby, who wrap us up. I'd like to call Artie here to just say a few words, and if I may, wish Artie a happy birthday.
Thanks for throwing me this party. Thank you all for coming today. It's interesting. I think back to sort of my first day in accounting at Georgetown, and the professor was like, accounting is the language of business. And for a long time, that language has not changed. And I was like writing down sort of all the new vocabulary, that frankly 3 to 5 years ago, like just was not in the vernacular of accountants. And if we basically say, well, the language of business is going to change over the next 5 years, that means business is going to change. And that's going to really be coming from, the accounting and the controller and the CFO suite. And so, rooms like this and are going to be places where we look back sort of 5 years ago, like, beginning of sort of a revolution that's going to be happening in this field. And, we're thrilled to be on the journey with all of you. We thank you for coming. And, please stick around and, network. And we're around to say hello. And if any of you have any sort of follow-ups or if not, please reach out. But thank you.